Hey traders, welcome to Master the Market, where we help you become a market master. If you're someone that is struggling a little bit with the Thinkorswim platform, or if you're just looking for a simple setup to use for your day trading in Thinkorswim, this is going to be the video for you. Thinkorswim is a very powerful platform, but because of that, it can be a little bit complicated, especially for newer traders. So stay tuned, because throughout this video, we're going to talk about some of the different tools and features that Thinkorswim provides. And by the end of this video, you should feel a lot more comfortable using this platform for your day trading. So I'm actually going to start off by clicking on Setup up here and then going to Reset Workspace to Default. This is going to simply reset my workspace here back to what it would look like if it was my first time signing into Thinkorswim. So if you're in this same position here, stick with me and we can kind of build ourselves a workspace that we can use for our day trading. Now, what I want to start off by noticing here is that we have, of course, our main section here in the middle, which we're going to be focusing on here in just a moment. But we also have a sidebar on the left side here. And this sidebar is really powerful and is something that I use all of the time for my trading and for my analysis when I'm using Thinkorswim. This sidebar is completely customizable. We can drag it out to make it even larger. We can, of course, drag it in to make it smaller. And if we wanted to, we can actually click on this arrow here to get rid of it entirely. Clicking on it once again will then bring it back out. So if I go ahead and just enlarge this here just for a moment, we can see that we have right now a quick chart. We have a watch list, we have Trader TV, we have live news, and then we have our account information. This is again completely customizable. So if we click on the settings icon down at the bottom, we can go ahead and get rid of all of these different widgets or gadgets, whatever you want to refer to them as, and we can then go ahead and start fresh. So if we wanted to then add in some gadgets, we can see all of the different options here by clicking on this plus button at the bottom. There's everything from a calculator to level 2 and time and sales, different watch lists you can add in, and so on and so forth. And watch lists are actually the main way that I personally use the sidebar, but realistically this is entirely up to your preference. So I'm going to go ahead and click on watch list here, and we can then click and drag down to make this a little bit larger. And if we click on the watch list name here, which is indexes right now, this is going to pull up all of the different options that we have for these different watch lists. We can create a new one by clicking on Create Watch List. And if we go up here, we have all of the different personal scanners that we've already made. We're going to talk about how to create scanners here in just a moment. And we can then see the public scanners that are already pre-made right here in the public sections as well. So if I wanted to see maybe, for example, the top percent gainers, this is a commonly used scanner, of course. We can go ahead and click on that, and that is then going to be right there in our sidebar. Now, what I'm noticing right away is that for our top percent gainers, we have the symbol, we have the last price that the stock was traded at, we have the net change, then we have the bid, and we have the ask. Now, for me personally, if I'm looking at top percent gainers, I want to see the percent that these stocks have gained or lost, not necessarily the number of dollars that this stock has gained. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this real small little settings icon here, and then click on Customize. And this is going to allow me then to remove that net change. We can then add in the percent change. And I'm actually going to also remove the bid and the ask. And what I like to see as well is going to be the volume. And then from there, you can also add in, of course, any of the other information that you want to see about the company or about the stock. As we can scroll through here and see, there are tons of different options, but I'm going to keep it very simple here for this example and just look at the symbol, the last price, the percent change, and the volume. If I click on OK, we can then see that we, of course, have our symbol, our last price, our percent change, and our volume. And this is because it is the percent change gainers going to be sorted from the largest percent gainers at the top to the smallest percent gainers then at the bottom. So the nice thing about this is that when you're in one of the other trading tabs or charting tabs, which again we're going to talk about here in just a moment, you don't have to jump back over to your scanner tab to look for these stocks that are having these large moves in the market. You can simply look over into your sidebar, which is just going to simplify the process and make things a lot quicker. All right, so for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and minimize this sidebar here. And now I want to go up to the Scan tab. The Scan tab is where we actually are going to create different scanners that we can use to find stocks meeting the setups that we're looking for in the market. I have other videos on my channel for setting up and finding stocks that are breaking out and have intraday momentum. So I'm not going to go into a ton of detail for creating specific scanners here, but it is important to kind of understand how this process works and how this scan tab is going to work. So when you're on the scan tab, we can see that we have some different criteria that's going to be put in here by default. We have a stock criteria for a net change, and then we can put the minimum and the maximum if we wanted to narrow down the market by that criteria. For me, I'm going to actually change this to percent change, and this is then going to allow us to find stocks that are up maybe a minimum of 10% for the day. If I wanted to then find stocks that have a minimum amount of volume of 500,000 shares, I can put that information in there. And then if I wanted to find a stock that has a relatively low float, what I could do is put in shares, and I can put a maximum amount of shares at maybe 20 million. This is then going to allow me to find stocks that are meeting all of this criteria here by clicking on scan. And this is then going to, of course, pull up those stocks. Now, if this was a scanner that I wanted to use on maybe a regular basis, what I would do is click on these three lines up here. I would click on Save Scan Query. I would give this a name. Maybe we could call it Low Float Gainers. And if I click on Save, now this is going to be a saved scanner. And the nice thing about this is that, like we talked about with our sidebar, if we were over in one of the other sections or different tabs, I can then pull up that sidebar, and I can actually pull up that scanner that we just created in the scan tab right here in the sidebar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our personal scans, and I'm going to look between 1 and N, and we can see down here we have our low float gainers scan that we just created. Now that scanner is going to be again right here in the sidebar, and again that is just going to simplify our process for us, allowing us to not have to jump back over here to the scan tab because we have our sidebar here with all that information already pulled up. All right, so now that we're over here in charts, as we can see right now it is blank. There's not any charts pulled up, but this is going to be the main way probably that you're going to be doing your technical analysis. This charts tab is going to allow you to, of course, pull up different charts, but it's also going to allow you to have things like the level 2, the time in sales, and so on and so forth, other different indicators for your technical analysis and for your price action trading. Now, just like everything else in Thinkorswim, this is completely customizable. So if we wanted to, for example, get rid of this top chart or this top section up here, what I would do is click on this little icon here on the right side of this box. That is going to allow me to completely remove this section. So we're now just going to have these three. And if I wanted to, for example, have the chart for SPY over here on the left, the chart for Apple here in the middle, and then the chart for NVIDIA here on the right. This is a setup that maybe you would have if you were trading the RSW strategy. The RSW strategy is one that we've talked about here in this channel before, and it's also one that we focus on in the Market Master group. And really the premise of that strategy is comparing different stocks like Apple and NVIDIA to the performance of SPY or the S&P 500 and allowing us to determine if these stocks have relative strength or relative weakness. Now, obviously, right now we can see that these are on the daily time frame. So to change that, what we would do is click on the D up here, and this is going to pull up the different time frames. There are going to be some default favorites, such as the 1 day, 1 minute, the 5 day, 5 minute. But if you wanted to find anything else, you can click on the time frame, and you can change it from intraday to daily, or completely customize the time frame itself. So I'm going to go over to favorites and just change all of these to 5 day, 5 minute. Just to find a quick intraday setup. Okay, and what you might be noticing here as well is that these are pretty blank charts. There's obviously no indicators going to be on them by default. So if you wanted to add different indicators onto these charts, what you would do is you would click on the Studies tab at the top of the charts, and we can then go ahead and add in any of the different studies. We can see by scrolling through here that there are tons of different options to add onto our charts. Let's go ahead and stick with some of the basics here. We can go ahead and add the VWAP. By clicking on it and clicking Add Selected, it's going to be added to our charts. We can then click on the settings icon next to the VWAP in order to make any adjustments. For example, if you don't want to use the upper band and the lower band of the VWAP, you only wanted to use the main line, you could click on the upper band and then deselect Show Plot, Show Bubble, and Show Title. Same thing with the lower band. that is then going to have just the main VWAP line here. And we can see then that that is going to pull up on our chart. Now, if we just go ahead and add one more thing, for example, let's put in the RSI. The RSI is going to be then at the bottom of our chart, but it can be a little bit of a pain in the butt to add all of these different indicators onto every individual chart that we have in our platform. So the nice thing that we can do here is we can actually save these indicators that we have on our chart as a set. So if I wanted to save these, I could call them, for example, SPY intraday, click on save. Now when I hit OK, I can go to any of our other charts, click on the studies icon, I can go to sets, and I can find SPY intraday, use that set, and go ahead and apply all of those studies to our chart. So now I'm going to have the VWAP and I'm going to have the RSI without having to individually add those studies onto this chart. I'll do the same thing over here for NVIDIA, and this is going to just really simplify this process and make it go a lot faster, especially if you're someone that's using, different moving averages and all kinds of different studies. It can be a really tedious process to add all of those onto every chart. Now, very quickly, before we move on from the charts themselves, one other thing that is personally bothering me a little bit about these charts is that the volume here is going to be a completely separate section as opposed to on the chart itself. So the way to change that would be to go to the settings icon, and we can see that under layout here we have overlap volume. That is by default going to be unselected, but if we click on that and click on OK, we can see then that the volume goes right onto the chart itself. That to me makes it just look a lot cleaner, and it kind of gets rid of that unnecessary section there underneath the chart, leaving more room for the indicators themselves. All right, now to move on from the charts, if you take a closer look here at the middle in between these charts, you can see that there are different options. Chart by default is going to be selected, of course, because we are in the charts tab. But if we wanted to have something like the time and sales and the level 2, for example, we can also, of course, pull those up here as well. So I'm actually going to go ahead and get rid of this chart here for Apple, and I'm just going to pull up the level 2 and the time and sales. And the market is currently closed, but usually during market hours or in the extended hours session, we would see all of the different trades going through here in the time and sales, and we would see the level 2 fluctuating as well. And then if I wanted to change this chart over here from NVIDIA to the active trader, for example, I would go ahead and deselect chart, and I would click on active trader. Now the nice thing about all of this is that what we can do is we can actually link all of these together. So by default, none of these are going to have any links, but if we click on this little link icon that's to the right of the symbol, and then we click on any of the colors or any of the numbers, and we go ahead and set all of these at the exact same number in the same color, what this is going to do is it's going to link all of these together. So now, if we're looking at the chart for SPY, the level 2, the time and sales, and the active trader are all going to be for SPY as well. If we then change this to Apple, we can see that the level 2, the time and sales, and the active trader are all going to change to Apple as well. That is, again, just one of those things that makes things a lot more simple and a lot quicker here in Thinkorswim. Then once we have this set up the way that we want to for our trading, what we can do is we can deselect the sidebar, and deselect the sidebar to get rid of that little sidebar that is, of course, in each of these cells. We can then go up to this upper right-hand corner here, click on this little icon, and deselect Customize Grid, and that's going to get rid of those boxes that were in the middle of our indicators and in the middle of our charts. Okay, so that's a really simple way to set up this charting section here for some day trading. Just by doing that, you're going to have kind of your essentials. You're going to have your chart with a couple of your essential indicators. You're going to have your level 2 and your time and sales, and you're going to have your active trader, which is going to actually be used in order to place your trades. Now, if you are new to Thinkorswim and you've used different platforms in the past, active trader is probably going to be a little bit different than what you're used to for placing your trades. But I want to break it down here because it is very simple to use, and it's actually a very powerful way to get in and out of your trades. Essentially what this is here, if we scroll through, we can see all of the different prices here above and below the current market price. This is going to allow us to simply click on any price to enter or exit out of a trade at that specific price. Essentially, it's going to allow us to place a limit order at that price to buy or to sell, which in my opinion is better than most other trading platforms, because with most other trading platforms, what you have to do to place a trade is you have to set your order type to limit, and then you have to type in the limit price that you're trying to fill that order at. Whereas with this, again, all you're doing is scrolling and then clicking at the price that you want to buy or sell. On top of that, if you wanted to just get in and out at the current market prices rather than using a limit order, we have buttons here to simply buy and to sell at the market. By clicking this little arrow here next to it, it's going to allow us to change the number of shares. By default, it's probably going to be set at 100. We also have the ability here to use different order templates. By default, it's going to be set at a single order, allowing you to just buy or to sell regularly. But if we click on this, we can see there are different options: single, OCO, which stands for one cancels the other. We can have a target with bracket, target with 2 brackets, target with 3 brackets, and so on and so forth. One of the ones that I've used in the past is one that I created, which is Scalp OCO. I would use this to get in and out of trades very quickly with a predefined target price and a predefined risk level. And essentially what we have here is if we were to set this at a target price of 10 cents and set the same for the stop loss at minus 10 cents, what this is going to do, if we scroll down here in the active trader, we can see that if we were to buy here at $186.60, our target to sell is going to be 10 cents above at $186.70, and our stop loss is going to be 10 cents below at $186.50. So that stop loss and that target are automatically going to go into the market as soon as we enter into this trade, and that kind of makes things a little bit simpler in terms of managing risk and setting your target price. You can then, of course, click and drag those orders to move them once you've gotten into the trade if you wanted to. But by being able to set up these templates for your orders, it makes things a lot more simple and it makes things a lot more customizable in terms of getting in and out of your trades. If you set up a template, make sure you click on this little save icon here to save that template so that you can use it again in the future. And that is a quick rundown on how to use the active trader here in Thinkorswim. So anyway, for the most part, that is how I would go about setting up my platform here in Thinkorswim for some day trading in 2025. Keeping it as simple as possible for the newer traders. We don't need to overcomplicate things. We don't need to use all of the different crazy tools and features in Thinkorswim. You can keep it really simple here like we have on the screen currently, and you can still be a profitable trader if you're using the right strategy and if you're executing your trades properly. So that being said, I hope you found some value in this video. If you did, please make sure you give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you want to trade with me in real time and get access to our day trade alerts, swing trade alerts, our detailed trade plans, live custom scanner streams, and so on and so forth, all of that can be found in the Market Master group. There's going to be a link down below in the description for you to get signed up. Anyway, thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck with your trading.